I have some questions for you if you're up to answering them, Mrs. Harris.
I'll try my best, Mr. Fordham.
Tell me what you know about your son's kidnapping.
Oh, my poor baby! Oh.
Mrs. Harris, I know this is difficult, but I need as much information as you can give me so I can bring your son back.
Yes, you're right. I have to stay strong. For Charles. It happened sometime between 6 and 8 last night, I think. Both my husband and I had gone out. Charles was in the care of his nanny, Mrs. Davis. I arrived home first, around 8:30, and that's when I found the scene in the nursery, as it was.
And what was it you found?
Mrs. Davis, unconscious in her chair, the broken window, and Charles missing from his crib. Malcolm arrived home shortly afterwards, around 9, and then immediately sent our butler, Mr. Havelock, to notify the police. We stayed up waiting for any contact from the kidnappers, but there was nothing.
Your husband mentioned he was out with friends last night. Where were you?
Oh, I was visiting with some of my friends. We gathered at one of their homes for a concert.
Liar.
It seems hiding something from your spouse is an activity both Harrises partake in.
What can you tell me about Mrs. Davis?
Well, she's worked for us since Charles was born, a little over 6 months ago.
How did you come to employ her?
Malcolm's mother had a friend whose daughter she used to care for. She came highly recommended. We've never had any problems with her. She's always been a dream.
Where is she now?
In her room, I would guess. With Charles missing, there's little for her to do.
Where might I find her room?
There's a small building just around the back of the manor. Hers is the 4th door from the left.
Can you think of any reason why your son would be a target for kidnapping?
It could be that someone wants our money, or some lunatic who's angry about the new airship. My husband's an investor, and my father-in-law owns the company building it, you see. I just don't know, Mr. Fordham. Frankly, the fact that something like this could even happen is just terrifying.
I found this bit of torn fabric by the broken window. Do you know anything about it?
No, I've never seen it before. Do you think it was left by the kidnapper?
Perhaps. Did the initials SS mean anything to you?
No, I can't think of anyone or anything I know with those initials.
Tell me about your son.
Charles is our only child. He's such a good boy. Never makes a fuss. Always very sweet. Oh, Charles, you must be so frightened out there without your mother. Oh, please, Mr. Fordham. You have to bring him home.
I'll do my best. Tell me a bit about yourself, Mrs. Harris.
Mr. Fordham, my son has been kidnapped and is out there alone, terrified and confused. What could I possibly tell you that would make any difference to you finding him?
I suppose you're right, Mrs. Harris. My apologies if I upset you. I found this button in your son's crib. Does it look familiar at all?
No, I don't recognize it. It looks like it came from some cheap coat. Is that what the ruffian who took my baby was wearing?
That's what I'm trying to determine.
Are you judging the kidnapper's fashion sense? That it's cheap?
I found this note in your bedroom. What can you tell me about it?
What? You had no right to go through my things?
Mrs. Harris, I'm just trying to find your son. The sooner I know about any clues I might find, the faster I can proceed with my investigation.
Fine. I got that note last night from Roland.
Do go on.
Who is Roland?
Roland is a special friend.
Mm-hmm.
I see.
Oh, don't you judge me, Mr. Fordham. You have no idea what my marriage has been like. Marrying Malcolm wasn't my idea, nor even his. The whole thing was orchestrated by our fathers. They thought merging the two families would be a good business arrangement.
Is your marriage an unhappy one then?
It wasn't easy at first, and it didn't get any easier as it went on, either.
So then why not end it?
Mr. Fordham, we are a respectable family. There are certain considerations. Besides, I had no legal grounds. For all his faults, Malcolm is a very faithful man. almost frustratingly so. Then, somewhat unexpectedly, we had Charles. At least that made things bearable.
I'm sorry for you, Mrs. Harris, I really am. But I think I should talk to this Roland.
Why? He has nothing to do with this.
That's for me to decide. Where can I find him?
I don't know. I've never been to his home. We usually meet at a hotel.
Can you tell me anything that would help me track him down?
Well, he's a musician. He plays the piano at some clubs in Gascon, but I don't know which for sure.
How about his last name?
I don't know that either.
I gather you don't talk much.
I refuse to answer that question, Mr. Fordham.
It's a good thing I don't have a stomach anymore, because I can guarantee you its contents would be on the floor right now.
What? It's a simple relationship, as simple as it gets.
That's all for now, Mrs. Harris.
Very well.
Alright, let's talk to your husband now in private.
Shall we continue our conversation, Mr. Harris?
Yes, of course.
Now that your wife is out of earshot, tell me about the kidnapping, and what these betting stubs have to do with it.
Right. As I said before, it had already happened when I got home. I had just come from spending the evening at the Meadows.
I see. I take it your wife isn't impressed by your hobby?
I promised her weeks ago that I would stop going, but I've had such a good streak lately. The last thing I wanted was to upset her further, yet it would be foolish of me to just give up on something so promising.
Aw man, that's how they get you.
Can you think of anyone who might want to do you harm by taking your son?
Several, I'm afraid.
Go on.
I haven't exactly had the best of luck, Mr. Fordham. That's why this latest streak was so important to me. The truth is, I've gambled away most of my money. I've had to take out several loans so Miriam doesn't get suspicious. If she ever found out, it would be over. I can't lose her, Mr. Fordham. I just can't.
Where have I heard this before? You know, things would be so much easier if people just talked to each other.
I've tried doing business above board, but lately I've had to seek other resources.
What do you mean?
I was forced to visit a lending office. The owner was a rather shady Sambo, but I figured he'd be easier to deal with than the usual sheenies that run those type of places.
Can you believe this guy? Maybe we should just leave the kid be. He'd probably be better raised by wolves.
Who was the owner?
Mr. LeFay. I didn't bother to get his first name. His business is an abattoir row in Chumley. Horrid place. But I was desperate.
You think this Mr. LeFay may have taken your son as collateral?
Let's just say there isn't much those type of people wouldn't do to put a crown in their pocket.
Those are all the questions I had for now.
All right. If you don't mind, Mr. Fordham, I'm going back to the living room. I don't want Miriam getting suspicious.
Alright then. So are we gonna tell his wife that he has no more money, essentially? We probably shouldn't. But he's an addict. And oh my god, Bill, you have been preaching the truth. Let's see if we have the option to basically throw him under the bus.
Sit tight, Mrs. Harris. I may have more questions for you later.
We don't. We're not going to destroy your life just yet. But I think I handled that okay. I got the most information out of both of them. So let's go to these new locations that I got. What was it? No suspects. So we need to find out what SS is. Need to speak to Arthur, Mrs. Davis. So she's up next because she's the closest. Roland and Mr. LeFay. I'd like to talk to the father as well. Maybe that's relevant. Maybe not. We'll see.
Come in!
Good day to you, ma'am. I'm Miles Fordham, a private investigator. I'm looking into the kidnapping of Charles Harris. Are you Mrs. Davis?
I am. Oh, bless the spirits. They've sent someone to help at last.
Yeah, they have. Aren't you a sweet old lady?
Another Harris hand-me-down, no doubt. You'd think they would have Another Harris hand-me-down, no doubt. You'd think they would have washed it first.
But the dresser? That looks clean enough. Chill, Bill.
Another Harris... Seems like that boiler's the only thing in here that's less than 10 years old.
Bill, you're savage.
My mother had a pewter teapot as well. Always made the tea taste funny. It's a spirit reaching out to a very frightened man. Possibly the fakest looking photo I've ever seen.
Oh, Mrs. Davis, you have the best decorations.
That chest is full of undressed dolls? What the hell is wrong with this old bat?
What the fuck? Undressed dolls? This many? You're weird.
Her Majesty Queen Jessica. This was clearly painted a long time ago. Painting of a tower on a Scottish moor. I wish I'd been able to make it over there. Painting of a misty forest with a cemetery in the background. Cheery stuff.
She's got a gothic sense of humor.
This looks like a mourning portrait of a young woman. Probably a relative of Mrs. Davis. Pretty distinguished looking gentleman. Handsome. Good fashion sense. Wonder who he is.
I would venture a guess to say that it's her late husband or some family member, one of the Harrises.
A boy taking a nap under a tree while his dog runs around in the distance. That brings back some good memories. The Harris family doesn't seem to hold the comfort of their servants in very high regard. I think a bed of nails would be an improvement.
I don't know, man. It's a basic, roomy room. Can't complain. Lady has enough space.
These are all books on spiritualism and the occult. Mrs. Davis doesn't seem to have many other hobbies.
Mrs. Davis, aren't you an interesting creature? Let's talk about your interests.
I have some questions for you, Mrs. Davis.
All right.
All right.
Tell me about the kidnapping of Charles Harris.
Oh dear, may the spirits forgive me. I feel so awful. Charlie was my responsibility, and I failed.
Mrs. Davis, that is beside the point. What's important now is finding him and bringing him home. To do that, I need your full cooperation.
Oh, you're right, Mr. Fordham. I'm sorry. I just need to collect my thoughts, get the negative vibrations out of my mind. Now, what specifically would you like to know?
Oh my. I need to get them out of my head.
What time did the kidnapping occur?
I'm not entirely sure. I know I was in the nursery having a cup of tea about 8:30. I remember feeling very drowsy. I must have passed out then because the next thing I knew, I was being woken by Mrs. Harris. That was after she got home, about 10:30. To think, whoever took Charlie did it while I was in the room. Oh, may the spirits grant me peace.
Do you happen to take any sort of sleep medications or soporifics?
Oh, dear me, no. Those types of drugs cloud the mind and make it impossible to tune into the ether.
You say that as though it were a bad thing.
I beg your pardon?
Apologies, I spoke out of turn.
Hey, maybe we can talk to her about Bill. I mean, not Bill, our friend of a friend who has a friend named Schmill. And we're already getting conflicting information because she had her tea at 8:30 and said that Mrs. Harris came in at 10 or past 10, whereas Mrs. Harris said that she came home at 8:30. So who to believe?
Can you think of anyone who would have wanted to take the child?
Well, I'm not one to gossip, but I am quite sensitive to the energy and vibrations that people give off. I get the impression that Mr. and Mrs. Harris aren't very happy in their marriage.
Ah, come on. Anyone could have picked up on that. Anyone except you, that is.
Mr. Harris likes to stay out late and not take his wife with him. I can't remember the last time they went out together. I don't know what he gets up to, but it's possible he may have made some enemies.
You know what, Miss Davis? You are quite the mentalist. I would watch a show about you.
Can you think of any reason why someone would want to kidnap Charles?
It might have been for money, but last I heard there was no demand for a ransom. I honestly don't know why this happened, Mr. Fordham. I just hope you find the poor child. He must be scared to death.
Yeah, I really hope the kid isn't dead. That would suck.
I found this piece of torn fabric in the nursery. Does it look familiar to you?
No, it doesn't. I'm sorry.
I found this button in the baby's crib. Do you recognize it?
Why, yes. That's one of Barney's eyes.
Barney.
Charlie's stuffed bear. It's his favorite toy, a gift from my friend Linda.
I didn't find a stuffed bear in the nursery.
Then whoever took the baby must have taken Barney as well. Oh, at least the poor thing has something to comfort him. Bless the spirits.
Alright, so that's from the bear. Who is Linda?
Who is Linda?
Mrs. Linda Walker. She's a good friend of mine. As I said, she gave me Barney as a gift for Charlie.
Can you tell me anything else about her?
Oh, she's a lovely girl, very much in tune with her spiritual nature. I greatly enjoy my conversations with her.
When was the last time you saw her?
Oh, I don't remember. No, wait. It was at the last Specter Society meeting on the 19th. That's right.
Oh, there's a lot of dates and numbers to remember for this one. So the times they came in are wrong or different. The 19th with the Spector Society, I'm not going to remember any of this.
What is the Specter Society?
It's a club for spiritualists and amateur investigators of the paranormal. We meet twice a month to socialize and discuss our findings.
I see. Sounds fascinating.
Oh, I don't expect you to share my beliefs, Mr. Fordham.
Oh, I have a bit more experience than you'd think with regards to the spirit world.
You can say that again.
Where exactly do these meetings take place?
At a private residence in Gascon.
May I have the address?
Why, yes, it's 325 Rue Jameau. Are you going to seek spiritual guidance to find Charlie?
Perhaps. You never know what might be worth looking into.
They might be able to help me on another level.
That's a lovely portrait. Who is it of?
That is my late husband, Jonathan. He used to attend meetings of the Specter Society with me, bless him. I tried to get him to be more in tune with the other side, but I think he was just humoring me. He was a good man. Everyone at the society cared for him very much.
Well, now he is on the other side. So you can meet him and all that. Right? That's what you guys do.
Do you have Linda Walker's address?
No, I don't. I never visited her home. I get the feeling she doesn't like having visitors or being home very much. She prefers to meet people elsewhere. I was the same way after my husband died. It was embarrassing for my friends to see me living so differently. But I feel it's not just a matter of pride for dear Linda. I think there are lots of bad memories associated with where she lives. I try to stay away from places like that. They leave a mark on the soul, you know.
I couldn't help but notice that chest full of dolls in the corner.
Oh, that. Oh, I know it must look a bit strange, but I pick up old and broken dolls so they can be repaired and donated to orphanages. It's my way of giving back to the community and helping poor children who have nothing to play with.
Well, what a kind soul. I wish she would find less creepy ways to express her altruism.
It's still kind of creepy. And I got an achievement that says, not what it looks like. Is that so? Are you a sweet old lady? Or just an evil bat lady? More on that later.
How long have you worked as a nanny?
Only a few years. I never had to work when I was married. My husband had a lot of money. Unfortunately, he was in great debt. And after the spirits took him back to the ether, I wasn't left with much. So I began working as a nanny to make ends meet. but I consider taking care of children a reward in its own right.
Thank you for your time, Mrs. Davis.
Oh, you're very welcome.
What, so he had a lot of money, but he was in great debt? So he didn't have a lot of money. Okay. I'm just gonna save real quick and see if I can talk to the Harrises again about the conflicting times that I've been given.
I'll be going now, Mrs. Davis.
May the spirits guide your path.
And may the Force be with you and all that.
Sit tight, Mrs. Harris. I'll let you know if...
Well, I can't talk to them about the conflicting hours that I got of you guys coming home. Mrs. Davis says that you guys came in way later than what you admitted to. The Specter Society. Ooh, that's gonna be exciting. Lending office and Harris Construction Yard. I actually want to go here.
Too dark to tell what's inside. They must enjoy the somber atmosphere. Too dark to tell. I wouldn't like to have a street lamp right outside my window. Not without a good set of thick curtains, anyway.
Well, that's exactly what they have.
Yes? May I help you?
I'm interested in joining the Specter Society. I just want to ask a few questions, I think.
Hello, ma'am. My name's Miles Fordham, and I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Are you with the police?
No, I'm a private investigator.
I'm terribly sorry, darling, but I simply don't have the time right now. Perhaps if you come back next week, I'll be able to answer your questions then.
Well then, on this tone, I'm interested in joining.
This is the Specter Society, right? I'm interested in joining.
Ah, yes it is. Welcome, darling. Our membership process is a bit different to most social clubs. We require a sponsor.
Sounds simple enough.
Well, you see, we ask that sponsors be people who have passed on into the spirit world. Once you name your sponsor, I will attempt communication beyond the ether. When they answer, you will be judged and considered for membership.
Well, that should be easy. What are you looking for in a sponsor?
What are you looking for in a sponsor?
A willingness to communicate from beyond the ether. Open-mindedness, a desire for truth. In other words, all the qualities of a member of the Specter Society. Actually, we've had former members who have passed on act as sponsors before.
Well, I got one.
I've got a sponsor.
Excellent. What is the name of your sponsor, darling?
Bill. Jonathan Davis.
Bill Legere is my sponsor.
Seriously, Fordham? I thought you knew better than that.
Bill Legere. Very well, I will attempt to communicate with him.
She can do this all day. It's not gonna work.
I'm sorry, but I'm having trouble communicating. Perhaps you can come back and try again later?
See? Told you.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Bill, you just need to try harder. Or she's very much a fake. I'm the real deal, lady.
Oh, hello again. How may I help you?
I'd like to name a new sponsor.
Yes, of course. Who is your new sponsor?
Make up a name.
Jonathan Davis is my sponsor.
You knew Jonathan? He was such a kind man.
Yes, I know.
Yes, I can feel his presence, and it speaks positively of you. Please, come in, Mr. Fordham. I am Angela Maxwell, the founder of the Specter Society. Welcome.
Oh, that was easy.
May I offer you some refreshments? Some water or tea, perhaps?
You're very kind, but I'm afraid I must decline right now.
Well, please let me know if you change your mind.
Won't you look at this place? It's like a candy store for psychics.
Well, I like it. I like gothic interior design.
Those are some creepy twin girls. I could see a passing resemblance to Miss Maxwell, actually.
Huh.
There's quite a few members in this group.
Angela Maxwell. Linda. Maybe these names will be important. Angela, the meeting was wonderful. Cynthia. Anyone interested in a used spirit board? Please let Thomas know. Thank you. Linda, looking forward to having you over at the Manor next week. Come around 8 p.m. and you can meet Charlie. Henrietta. Please ask the spirits to cure my son's illness. Sophia. So we need Linda's address. Who's Henrietta? Henrietta Davis. Oh, that's Mrs. Davis. That's right. So where is this manor? Oh, Mrs. Davis, have you been lying to me? Do you know where she lives?
There's quite a few members.
I think I've seen one of these before. What does it do?
It's a spirit board. We use it to contact spirits, and they in turn spell out a message with the letters on the board.
Well, I've got a message from Miss Maxwell if she ever tries to use a spirit board around me. Ooh, spooky. That ghost between the two people almost manages to look convincing.
I know, Bill. They're such amateurs, right? But Bill, you're not exactly a spirit haunting me. You're inside my head, man.
That's probably the storage case for the spirit board.
What a fascinating device. Exactly what does it do?
That is an etherometer. It's designed to pick up vibrations from the ether and translate messages from the spirits.
Well, it ain't doing anything to Bill.
What a ridiculous contraption. People will do anything to make a quick crown.
It works. Members are free to borrow books as long as you check with me first.
It's nice of Miss Maxwell to let people borrow her books, even if they are all just a bunch of nonsense. And coming from me, that's really saying something.
Astral Projection refers to a willful out-of-body experience in which the soul or astral body disconnects from the physical body and may travel throughout the universe. You can read the rest because there's probably going to be a lot of reading. Maybe we're going to have an out-of-body experience. That'd be cool. Etheric travel. Ah, this is what happened to me with Bill. Metempsychosis. The philosophical idea of transmigration of the soul at the time of death. That is to say, the reincarnation of a soul in another human or animal. So that's what happened. Until the soul attained absolute purity, it was fated to continue the cycle of reincarnation. Deeds done in life would affect the soul's purity and determine how much longer its spiritual journey would go on before ascending to heaven. Interesting. The theory postulates that the soul of a human or animal will be transferred to another living being. Some characteristics or personality traits of the soul are usually preserved through reincarnations. For example, eye color, or an affinity towards a particular person or item. It's gotta be the Bollingworth ale. Nah, it's us. Bill liked us. There's some debate regarding the exact nature of the transfer of souls, but it's generally accepted that a human soul will transfer to an animal which is already alive. A soul belonging to an animal or human transferred to a human will enter a body at birth, and not one which is already alive. One popular believed case comes from medieval Germany where two feuding families both met their ends. The last of one line was suspected of setting the other's stables on fire, during which the other perished. Soon after, a white horse took up residence at the surviving family's estate. While out riding, the estate caught fire, and the horse and rider ran into the flames, killing both. It is said that the horse was the reincarnation of the murdered heir, come back to seek revenge on his killer. Well, isn't that glorious? But Bill, he can't control us. He's just a voice in my head. He has no physical representation. Oh, maybe we're gonna meet giant squids as well. Ah, this pouch. Designed to bring a gambler luck, would contain chamois? Is that how you pronounce it? I don't know what that is. red flannel, a shark's tooth, and dove's blood. So maybe we need to bring him good luck with this pouch of interesting items. For sending away an enemy contains items like gunpowder or red pepper. Usually the person's name is written on the paper and is included in the bag. To bring someone bad luck in business would contain chicken bones and graveyard dust, so that's what he's been getting, or his dad has been getting. To bring back bad luck, so the person that wrote the angry letters to his father is a voodoo practitioner. Spontaneous human combustion is a highly controversial subject, but remains popular among scholars and aficionados of the occult and unexplained. It refers to death from a fire originating without any apparent source of external ignition. It's believed that the fire starts within the body of the victim. And the 1823 book, Medical Jurisprudence, states that the commonalities in recorded cases of spontaneous human combustion, including the following characteristics. The victims are chronic alcoholics, are usually elderly females. The hands and feet usually fall off. What, they just plop off? The fire has caused very little damage to things around the body. A residue of greasy and fetid ashes is left behind. Most physicians and investigators strongly believe that spontaneous human combustion is a product of alcoholism. I don't know, man. If they swallow fire as well, maybe. Well, apparently these particular tarot cards are important. Well, I've taken a look at all of these, and they're reasonably interesting. I don't know exactly which ones are going to be, look for the detail. It's going to be important. But we're going to find out soon enough.
The plaque says Leonora Pattinson, seer. She looks like someone I would not want to fool around with. I never much cared for all that mystic stuff. Why should your life be dictated by a bunch of cards?
Well, it's not dictated. You can always change how you do things.
A great man once said to me, Bill, you aren't going to get very far in life just staring at balls. He's dead now. But then again, so am I.
That's right.
Could I ask you about some things, Miss Maxwell?
Certainly, darling.
What can you tell me about the Specter Society?
Where to begin? I formed this club 2 years ago, right after I moved to New Britannia. During our meetings, we discuss our experiences with paranormal phenomena and organize investigations.
What sort of investigations?
We look into places all around the city which have been reported as haunted. New Britannia is teeming with the spirits of those killed during the French and British takeovers of the city. Not only that, but there is a prevalence of mystic religious practices here in Gascon, brought over by immigrants from the Antilles.
Fascinating.
There are plenty of books on the subject over there in the bookcase, if you're interested in learning more.
I already read them.
What made you decide to start up this club?
I began communing with the spirits at a very early age. My twin sister, Rachel, died after falling into an icy pond when we were 8 years old.
I'm very sorry, Miss Maxwell.
Oh, I appreciate your sympathy, darling, but don't feel too bad. Rachel began speaking to me shortly after that. She has served as my spirit guide ever since.
Spirit guide? You mean you still speak with her?
Oh, yes. Every day. In fact, I was just speaking with her before you arrived. As I grew older, I realized there were others in the world who were also able to communicate with spirits, and those who had an interest in what lies beyond the ether. And so, once I moved to New Britannia, I decided to start up this club so we could gather and share our experiences.
Do you suppose she can hear what I'm saying? Hey, Angela, try a bit less eyeshadow, would you? You look like a purple raccoon. Nothing. Clearly a fraud. Ah, well.
I was wondering,
Yes?
when you communicate with the spirits, are you able to stop?
If I wish them to leave me, yes. I bid them farewell, and they usually depart back into the ether.
What about the more persistent ones?
You do remember I'm right here, don't you?
Well, just between you and me. Those spirits are best dealt with by having the other kind of spirits. Quiets them right down.
I prefer soporific myself.
Oh? You hear the voices of the spirits as well, Mr. Fordham. But of course, now the reason for your visit to the Specter Society is obvious. Do you see? All our paths eventually become clear. I'm glad yours has brought you here.
Oh, wonderful. Now she started rhyming. Don't get any funny ideas about telling her about me. She may be a lunatic, but that's no reason to expose yourself as one too.
Well, she might tell me things, relevant things about you, Bill. I want to tell her about Bill. Oh God, so many choices. I don't know.
Do you know anything about the kidnapping of Charles Harris?
I'm afraid I haven't heard anything about any kidnappings, darling. If you wish, I can commune with the spirits and see if I can help locate your missing person.
That won't be necessary, Miss Maxwell, though I appreciate the offer. I spoke with Henrietta Davis, and she mentioned one of your other members, Linda Walker. Can you tell me anything about her?
Ah, Linda. Poor dear. Of all our members, she is the one I feel for the most.
Why is that?
She's had a tragic life, but I believe the Specter Society has helped her greatly. Not only has she made a good friend in Henrietta, she's also dealt with her grief in a positive way. She has devoured my collection of books, educated herself on many subjects. I would say she's become an expert on clairvoyance and metempsychosis. It's always nice to know that the club can help those who have suffered.
Do you see her often?
Yes, she comes by about once or twice a week.
What can you tell me about Linda and Henrietta's friendship?
It's so lovely to see them together at the meetings. They're practically inseparable. It's quite sweet. They often leave messages for each other in the guest book. When Linda found out that Henrietta was taking care of an infant, she even gave her a toy bear for the child. I remember Linda lighting up with excitement when she asked about him. She really loves children. It's such a terrible shame about... But please, let's discuss something more pleasant, shall we, darling?
A shame what? What were you gonna say?
I'm sorry, what was it you said? Madam Psy, what?
Metempsychosis, darling. It's a philosophical term which comes from ancient Greece. It refers to the transmigration of the soul after death.
Is that anything like reincarnation?
Essentially, yes. There's a book on the subject over in the bookcase, which can tell you far more than I possibly could.
Well, I did read it.
What's this tragic story about Linda you mentioned?
Oh dear. I probably shouldn't say.
Well, it will help me find a missing child that Mrs. Davis cares about.
Miss Maxwell, I'm going to be frank. I'm investigating a kidnapping, and Mrs. Walker is a person of interest. I need to know as much about her as possible to help me solve this case. Do I make myself clear?
Well, if it will help, Linda was married to a man named Thomas. Together, they had a son named Alexander. Thomas revealed himself to be a terribly cruel man. When he gave himself over to the drink, he would fly into rages and beat both Linda and the boy. One day, she came home to find both her son and husband dead.
My God, what happened?
The police ruled it a murder-suicide. Poisoning, apparently. Linda has been trying to make contact with Alexander's spirit for the past year or so, but has had no luck. It really is a terrible tragedy.
That's horrible. Poor Linda.
Do you know Linda Walker's address?
I'm afraid not, darling. Linda has always been somewhat private, and that's not something I consider to be crucial information.
Do you know any way I can find her?
You could always come back for our next meeting. It will be the first Thursday of next month.
By then we'll have completely lost track of Charles. There has to be another way of finding Linda.
Well, hold on. In the message it was Henrietta, Mrs. Davis telling Linda to come by the manor at 8 p.m. So maybe she'll be there in the evening. And you know what? I'm gonna tell you about Bill. There's no other perfect place to speak about this. I wouldn't mention it to anyone else because they're gonna throw me in an asylum, but here should be a safe haven. Oh boy.
I don't hear the voices of all spirits, just one.
Miles, what are you doing?
Ah, you have a spirit guide. Please, tell me more, darling.
I wouldn't call him a spirit guide so much as a spirit nag.
This is a very, very bad idea.
Do you know who this spirit is?
Yes, it's my former detective partner, Bill. He died on our last case together, because of me.
What happened?
He was on a roof, being held at knife point by a burglar. Bill wanted me to shoot, but they were too close. I couldn't risk it. There was a struggle. Bill lost his footing and fell to his death.
Oh my, you poor darling. Is he angry with you?
Well, he is now. He doesn't think it's a good idea to tell others about him. But normally, he's the same as he was in life. He just wants me to find the man responsible for his death. I've told him I'm really the one responsible, but he insists it's the burglar.
I see. This is quite the unfortunate situation. My advice to you is this. Spirits often know best. You do well to listen to him about keeping his presence to yourself. Not everyone is as open-minded as we members of the Specter Society.
Huh. Maybe I misjudged her.
I know. It's been hardest keeping this from my wife, but I can't drive her away. She's all I've really got left.
Your story has touched me, Mr. Fordham. I will do everything I can to help you and your spirit guide find peace. If I find anything out which might help you, I will contact you personally.
Thank you, Miss Maxwell. I appreciate it.
Well, that could have turned out much worse. I'm warning you, Miles. Tell anyone else about me, and I won't be so forgiving.
Thank you for the information. It was very enlightening.
It was my pleasure, darling.
It kind of looks like she has red eyes. Interesting. So we have a companion to help us with our bill situation. So that's nice. Nice.